The night settles like silk upon the world, and, in this gentle darkness, wisdom whispers its ancient songs. Listen, can you hear it? The soft exhale of the earth as daylight fades, the tender rustle of leaves releasing their hold on today's worries. In this sacred pause between day and night, between waking and dreaming, we find ourselves drawn to something deeper than the noise of ordinary life. Before we begin this quiet journey together, if you find solace in these calming wisdom stories, feel free to subscribe, give this video a like, and gently share in the comments where in the world you're listening from tonight. Perhaps you're nestled in a cozy bedroom in Tokyo, or watching stars emerge over the prairies of Montana, or listening to rain against windows in a small village in Ireland. Wherever you are, know that you're not alone in seeking peace. Picture, if you will, a single cherry blossom petal drifting down from an ancient tree, carried by the softest breeze. It doesn't hurry, doesn't struggle against the wind, but simply floats, trusts, surrenders to the gentle current that carries it home. This is how we begin tonight, with the same tender surrender, the same quiet trust in the flow of this moment. Somewhere in the mountains of old Japan, a monk walks a forest path. His footsteps are soft, almost silent, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. The incense from the temple behind him curls upward in still air, carrying prayers and peace into the star-filled sky. He knows something we've forgotten in our hurried world. That true wisdom comes not from grasping, but from letting go. Tonight, we walk this path together. 10 ancient stories, 10 gentle teachings, 10 whispered truths that have comforted seekers for thousands of years. We'll explore the profound simplicity of Zen, the compassionate heart of Buddhist wisdom, all woven together like moonlight through bamboo groves. Close your eyes if you wish. Let your breathing slow. Feel your body settling into whatever surface supports you now. The day's tasks are complete. The world's demands can wait until tomorrow. Here, in this sacred pause, we need only listen and receive. Asterisk, asterisk, what is the sound of peace before thought arises? In the depths of meditation halls, where candlelight flickers against worn wooden walls, masters have posed this question for centuries, not to confuse, but to invite us beyond the reach of our restless minds, into something far more intimate than knowledge. Imagine standing beside a mountain lake at dawn, before the first bird has sung its morning song. The water is perfectly still, reflecting the sky so completely that you cannot tell where heaven ends and earth begins. In this moment of perfect stillness, what do you hear? Is it silence? Or is it something more subtle, the very heartbeat of existence itself? The old teachers understood something profound, that beneath our constant stream of thoughts, worries, and plans lies an ocean of peace so vast, so complete, that it needs no introduction, no explanation. It simply is, like the space between heartbeats, like the pause between breaths, like the gentle darkness that holds all stars. If we let go of everything, what remains? This question floats through the night air, like incense smoke, touching something deep within us that knows, has always known, but has forgotten how to remember. We spend our days gathering experiences, possessions, achievements, even spiritual insights, like children collecting shells on an endless beach. But what if the greatest treasure was not in the gathering, but in the letting go? A master once sat beneath a Bodhi tree, watching leaves fall one by one. Each leaf that touched the ground was a thought released, a worry surrendered, a plan dissolved. By dawn, the tree stood bare against the sky, and the master smiled. Not because he had lost anything, but because he had found everything, the spaciousness that was always there, patient and eternal, waiting beneath the accumulation of a lifetime. Picture a mountain stream flowing over smooth stones. The water doesn't cling to any single stone, doesn't try to change its course to avoid obstacles. It simply flows, finds its way, trusts the ancient wisdom of gravity and grace. When we release our grip on how life should be, we discover the same flowing quality within ourselves, not empty, but full of potential, not lost, but finally free dot in the gentle half-light of early evening. When shadows grow long and the world begins to whisper its nighttime secrets, we're invited to explore this question not with our minds, but with our hearts. What would it feel like to be that stream, that falling leaf, that perfect stillness of the mountain lake? Perhaps the answer isn't something we can think our way to, but something we can only arrive at through the most radical act of all, the willingness to stop trying to arrive anywhere at all. The Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment was not complex philosophy, but a simple observation. Life contains suffering, and suffering has an end. Picture him there, beneath the spreading branches of the Bodhi tree, having just emerged from the deepest meditation, his face serene as morning mist. When his first students gathered around him, what did he share? Not abstract concepts, but something as immediate as the next breath, as present as the feeling of earth beneath their feet. Come, he seemed to say, and I will show you why your heart feels heavy and how it can become light again. In our modern world, we might translate his ancient words this way. The pain you feel is real, but it's not permanent. The anxiety that visits you at 3 a.m., the sadness that lingers after loss, the frustration with life's endless changes. These are not flaws in the system, but part of the human experience. And more importantly, they are not the whole story. The first noble truth acknowledges what we all know but rarely speak. Life contains suffering, not as punishment, but as information. Like a fever that signals the body's need for rest, suffering points us toward what needs attention, what needs healing, what needs to be released. But here's where the ancient wisdom becomes a gentle gift to the modern heart. Suffering is not the destination, but the starting point. It's the knock on the door that invites us to discover what lies beyond our current understanding. The second noble truth whispers, this suffering has roots. Like a weed that keeps returning, it grows from something deeper than circumstances. It grows from our constant wanting life to be different, wanting ourselves to be different, wanting the river to flow uphill instead of down. Imagine trying to hold water in your cupped hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. This is the nature of attachment, not love, but the grasping that squeezes the life out of what we claim to love. The mother who cannot let her child grow up, the person who cannot let go of past mistakes, the heart that insists the sun should never set. The third noble truth arrives like dawn after a long night. This suffering can end, not through getting everything we want, but through understanding the nature of wanting itself. When we stop demanding that the river flow uphill, we discover the joy of flowing with it instead. And the fourth noble truth offers the map. There is a path, not a destination to reach, but a way of walking. 8 gentle practices that transform the seeker step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment. These ancient teachings don't ask us to become someone else, but to discover who we already are beneath the layers of confusion and grasping. They invite us to treat our hearts with the same tenderness we would show a frightened child, the same patience we would offer a flower struggling to bloom. Long ago, in a monastery nestled between misty mountains, there lived an old monk named Jashu. His beard was white as winter snow, his eyes kind as summer rain, and his wisdom flowed like water finding its way to the sea. Each morning, the younger monks would come to him with their spiritual questions, their doubts, their burning desire to understand the mysteries of existence. And Jashu, sitting quietly in the temple garden where morning glories climbed ancient stone walls, would listen with the patience of mountains. One autumn day, when the maple leaves were turning gold and crimson, a young monk approached with tears in his eyes. "Master," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I have been meditating for 3 years. studying the sutras, following every rule, but I still feel so far from enlightenment. My mind is like a wild horse that refuses to be tamed. When will I find peace? Joshu smiled and gestured to a small tea table beside him. Sit, dear friend. Let us share some tea. As they sat in comfortable silence, Joshu poured the tea with movements so fluid they seemed like a dance. Steam rose from the cups like prayers ascending to heaven. The old master lifted his cup and took a slow, mindful sip and set it down with a gentle clink. Tell me, Joshu said, his voice soft as silk, when you drink this tea, do you taste the rain that nourished the tea plants? The young monk paused, confused. Master, I taste the tea. And can you taste the sunshine that warmed the leaves as they grew? No, master, just tea. Joshu nodded, his eyes twinkling. Can you taste the hands of the farmer who picked the leaves, or the earth that held the roots? The young monk shook, his head beginning to understand something he couldn't yet name. And yet, Joshu continued, all of these things, the rain, the sun, the farmer's careful hands, the generous earth, they are all here in this cup. You cannot separate the tea from the rain, the sunshine from the leaves. They are one reality, expressing itself as tea. He paused, allowing the words to settle like sediment in still water. Your peace, dear friend, is not something you must find or achieve. It is not hiding from you, waiting for you to become worthy or wise enough to discover it. Your peace is like the rain in the tea. It is already here, woven into the very fabric of this moment. You cannot separate yourself from it any more than you can separate the tea from the rain. The young monk felt something shift in his chest, like a tight fist slowly opening. But master, if peace is already here, why do I feel so restless, so far from it? Joshu smiled and pointed to the morning glory vines climbing the stone wall. Do you see how these flowers reach toward the sun? They don't strain or struggle. They simply turn their faces to the light, naturally, effortlessly. Your restlessness comes from trying to grasp peace like a butterfly, instead of simply turning your face toward it. As the afternoon light slanted through the bamboo groves, casting dancing shadows on the temple floor, the young monk began to understand. Peace wasn't a destination to reach, but a recognition of what was already present. Not something to achieve, but something to remember. Not a reward for perfect practice, but the very ground on which all practice rests. Years later, when the young monk had become a teacher himself, he would tell his students about that autumn day, about the taste of tea and the wisdom of an old master who knew that the deepest truths are often the simplest ones. Asterisk, asterisk with each breath. You become the stillness between thoughts drifting, floating into presence, ... Close your eyes now, if you haven't already, and feel yourself sinking deeper into whatever supports you. The day's weight is leaving your shoulders like snow melting. In spring sunshine, your body knows how to rest, how to release, how to return to the natural rhythm that beats at the heart of all existence. Let your attention turn inward now, like a gentle river changing course toward the sea. Notice your breath, not to control it, but simply to witness it. Each inhale draws in not just air, but the gift of this moment. Each exhale releases not just carbon dioxide, but everything that no longer serves you. Breathe in peace, breathe out the day's burdens. Breathe in stillness, breathe out the noise of worry. Breathe in the vast spaciousness of night, breathe out the tight grip of control. The Buddha taught that we are not our thoughts any more than the sky is the clouds that pass through it. Right now, in this moment, you can experience this truth directly. Notice how thoughts arise in your awareness, like bubbles rising in champagne, appearing, floating, and naturally dissolving back into the silence from which they came. You are not the anxious thought about tomorrow's meeting. You are the aware presence that notices the thought. You are not the memory of yesterday's disappointment. You are the compassionate witness that holds all memories with equal tenderness. You are not the story your mind tells about who you are or who you should be. You are the vast, open awareness in which all stories appear and disappear like reflections on a still lake. Feel yourself expanding now, like mist rising from a moonlit pond. Your identity, which seemed so solid this morning, begins to soften at the edges. The boundaries between self and world, between inner and outer, between dreamer and dream, start to blur like watercolors in gentle rain. This is not losing yourself. This is finding your true self, the self that exists before names and labels, before achievements and failures, before the endless categories the mind creates to make sense of mystery. In this spacious awareness, you discover something profound. You are not separate from the night sky you're resting under. You are not separate from the ancient wisdom that flows through these stories. You are not separate from the peace that every seeker throughout history has sought, because you are that peace, expressing itself as this moment of seeking. Let go now of the need to understand this with your thinking mind. Instead, let yourself be understood by it. Let yourself be held by the same presence that holds the stars in their courses, that guides the tides in their eternal dance, that whispers to sleeping flowers about when to bloom. There is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, no one to become. There is only this gentle recognition of what you already are, not the small self that worries about tomorrow, but the vast self that includes tomorrow, today, and all the yesterdays that have led to this perfect moment of rest. With each breath, you sink deeper into this truth. With each heartbeat, you remember what you never actually forgot. With each moment of letting go, you discover what cannot be lost. The journey into the self is not a journey to somewhere else, but a journey to here. Not a journey to some other time, but a journey to know. Not a journey to become someone else, but a journey to recognize who you have always been beneath the layers of forgetting. There once was a student who traveled great distances to study with a renowned Zen master. When he arrived at the humble tea house where the master lived, he was eager to demonstrate his knowledge and ask profound questions about the nature of reality. The master, a small woman with silver hair and eyes like deep pools, invited him to sit. "I have studied all the great texts," the student began. "I have memorized countless sutras. I have debated with scholars, and I have practiced meditation for years. I have come to ask you about the ultimate truth." The master nodded and began to pour tea. She poured and poured, and when the cup was full, she kept pouring. Tea spilled over the rim, across the table, and onto the floor. "Stop!" the student cried. "The cup is full. No more can go in." The master smiled and set down the teapot. "Yes," she said gently. "And like this cup, you are full of your own knowledge, your own ideas, your own certainties. How can I pour anything new into what is already overflowing?" This is the story of the empty cup, not empty of intelligence, but empty of the assumption that we already know what we need to know. In the mountains of Tibet, there's a tradition of sky burial where the departed are offered to the vultures and wind, returning to the elements that gave them life. The first time Western visitors witnessed this, they were often disturbed by what seemed like disrespect for the dead. But the practitioners understood something profound. Nothing is truly lost, only transformed. The body returns to feed other. Life, the breath returns to the great breathing of the world. The consciousness returns to the ocean of awareness from which it came. What if our thoughts, our worries, our very sense of self could be offered to the sky in the same way? Here's a curious thing the old masters discovered. The harder we try to be peaceful, the more agitated we become. The more we strive for enlightenment, the further it seems to drift away. This is what they called the spiritual materialism, treating peace like a commodity to be acquired, Enlightenment like a trophy to be won, but there's a secret hidden in plain sight. The Buddha never actually found enlightenment. He simply stopped losing what was already there. Like a person frantically searching for glasses that are sitting on top of their head, we seek what we already possess. Consider this gentle riddle. What is the sound of one hand clapping? For centuries, students have pondered this comb, trying to solve it like a puzzle. But what if the question itself is the answer? What if the sound of one hand clapping is the sound of your heart beating without needing another heart to validate it? What if it's the sound of your breath breathing you without you having to remember to breathe? In ancient China, there was a practice called moon-gazing meditation. Monks would sit for hours simply watching the moon, not trying to understand it or capture it, but allowing themselves to be gazed upon by it in return. They discovered that the moon's gentle light could illuminate not just the landscape, but the inner landscape of the heart. Try this now. Imagine the moonlight not just falling on your face, but arising from within you. You are not separate from the moon any more than waves are separate from the ocean. The same consciousness that moves the tides moves through your dreams. The same silence that holds the space between stars holds the space between your thoughts. Here's perhaps the most surprising truth of all. You don't need to be fixed, improved, or enlightened. You don't need to be other than exactly what you are in this moment. The flower doesn't try to be more flower-like. The river doesn't apologize for its course. The night doesn't hurry toward dawn. What if your imperfections are not obstacles to peace, but gateways to it? What if your struggles, your doubts, your midnight worries are not evidence that you're far from truth, but proof that you're human enough to recognize it when it appears? Asterisk, asterisk, in the soft candlelight of temple halls, where incense smoke curls upward like prayers made visible, ancient wisdom whispers about the nature of pain and the possibility of its transformation. Picture a lotus flower blooming in muddy water. Its roots drink from the same dark earth that would seem to prevent its flowering, yet it rises through the murky depths to open its pristine petals to the sun. The mud doesn't become the enemy of the lotus. It becomes its nourishment, its very foundation for reaching toward light. This is the first gentle teaching about suffering. It is not the opposite of peace, but often its unexpected doorway. When we observe our pain with the same tender attention we might give to a crying child, something remarkable happens. The pain doesn't necessarily disappear, but our relationship to it transforms. We stop being the victim of our suffering and become its compassionate witness. We stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What is this here to teach me?" Consider the nature of physical pain for a moment. When you cut your finger, the pain serves a purpose. It draws your attention to what needs care. It says, "Look here, tend to this. Don't ignore what requires healing." Emotional and spiritual pain often work the same way. The ache of loneliness points toward our deep need for connection. The anxiety about the future reveals our difficulty trusting life's unfolding. The grief after loss shows us how deeply we have loved. But here's where the Buddha's insight becomes revolutionary. Suffering is not the pain itself, but our resistance to it. Imagine you're caught in a gentle rain. You can run frantically seeking shelter, cursing the sky, fighting against each drop, and in that resistance, you suffer. Or you can slow down, feel the coolness on your skin, notice how the rain brings life to the earth, and perhaps even find a strange peace in getting wet. The rain is the same in both scenarios. The difference is your relationship to it. This is why the path to peace doesn't require perfect circumstances, but perfect presence. In the mountains of Nepal, there's a practice called sky gazing, sitting in the open air and simply looking up at the vast expanse above. Clouds come and go, storms pass through, sunshine gives way to starlight. The sky remains unchanged, vast enough to hold all weather without being disturbed by any of it. Your awareness is like that sky, spacious enough to hold all experiences, without being diminished by them. The anger that feels so solid and permanent is just weather passing through your inner sky. The sadness that seems to define you is just a cloud formation in the vast expanse of your being. The fear that keeps you awake at night is just a storm that will eventually exhaust itself and move on. But how do we cultivate this sky-like awareness in the midst of very human storms? The answer lies in a practice as old as human consciousness itself, the art of gentle witnessing. When pain arises, whether physical, emotional, or existential, instead of immediately trying to fix it, escape it, or understand it, we can simply be present with it. Not passive, but actively compassionate. Not resigned, but radically accepting. Try this now. Bring to mind something that has been troubling you lately, instead of diving into the story of why it's troubling, or how it might be resolved. Simply notice where you feel it in your body. Does it have a texture, a temperature, a color, a shape? Breathe with it, the way you might breathe with a sleeping child, carefully, tenderly, without trying to change their dreams. Notice how the simple act of witnessing begins to transform the experience. The suffering is no longer happening to you, it's happening within you, held in the vast space of your awareness, like a small wave in an infinite ocean. You're not drowning in it. You're the ocean itself, deep enough to hold all waves without being overwhelmed by any of them. This is the beginning of what the Buddha called the Noble Path, not a journey away from human experience, but a journey into its very heart with such complete presence that we discover the peace that was always there, waiting beneath our resistance. In the gardens of ancient temples, where moss grows over stone lanterns and bamboo whispers secrets. To the wind, there is a practice more profound than all the meditation techniques ever devised, the sacred art of letting go. Imagine a child at the seashore, building an elaborate sandcastle. Tower by tower, wall by wall, they create their masterpiece. But as the tide begins to turn, they face a choice. They can frantically try to build higher walls to keep the water out, or they can step back and watch with wonder as the ocean reclaims the sand, transforming their creation into something new and beautiful. This is the choice we face in every moment, to grasp or to release, to control or to trust, to resist the tide or to dance with it. The Buddha spoke of attachment as the root of suffering, but this word has been misunderstood. He didn't mean we should stop loving, stop caring, stop engaging with life. He meant we should love without possession, care without controlling, engage without clinging to outcomes. Think of how you hold a butterfly. If you close your fist around it, you'll crush its delicate wings. If you hold your hand open, it might stay for a moment, blessing you with its presence, and then fly away when it's time. The butterfly doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the sky, to the flowers, to the great dance of existence. But in that moment of open-handed presence, you and the butterfly are one. This is how we learn to love without attachment, with open hands and a grateful heart. In the monasteries of Tibet, there's a beautiful practice called sand mandalas. Monks spend weeks creating intricate, colorful patterns with colored sand, grain by grain, breath by breath. When it's complete, a masterpiece of geometric beauty, they ceremonially sweep it away and pour the sand into a river. Years of training, weeks of work, dissolved in minutes. Why do they do this? Because they understand something most of us have forgotten. Beauty doesn't diminish when we let it go. Love doesn't disappear when we release our grip on it. Peace doesn't vanish when we stop trying to capture it. In fact, it's only in the letting go that we discover what cannot be lost. Consider your own life for a moment. How much energy do you spend trying to hold onto things that naturally want to change? The youth that wants to mature into wisdom. The children who want to grow into their own lives. The relationships that want to evolve into new forms. The job that no longer fits who you're becoming. The old version of yourself that wants to give birth to someone new. What if, instead of seeing change as loss, we could see it as life loving itself into new forms? The river doesn't mourn the mountain it leaves behind as it flows toward the sea. The tree doesn't grieve the seed it once was. The butterfly doesn't long to return to its cocoon. They trust the intelligence that moves through all things, the same intelligence that beats your heart without your permission and grows your hair while you sleep. Try this gentle practice. Now, bring to mind something you've been trying to hold onto. Maybe it's a relationship that's changing, a phase of life that's ending, a dream that's transforming into something unexpected. Feel the tension in your body, the tightness in your chest, the effort it takes to keep grasping. Now imagine opening your hands, the way you might release a bird back to the sky. Feel the relief as your fingers uncurl. Notice how the letting go doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love enough to set free. The person doesn't disappear. They remain in your heart, but without the weight of your demands upon them. The dream doesn't die. It transforms into something even more beautiful than you could have imagined. This is the paradox of letting go. We only truly possess what we're willing to release. The sunset is most beautiful because it doesn't try to last forever. The snowflake is most perfect because it melts. The breath is most precious because it passes through us and moves on. Your life is most sacred because it's temporary, most meaningful because it's fleeting, most beautiful because it's constantly changing. In this gentle releasing, we discover something the mystics have always known. We are not separate from the all flow of existence, but part of it. We are not spectators watching life happen, but life itself, expressing as this moment of awareness, this breath, this heartbeat, this tender willingness to let the river carry us toward whatever ocean awaits. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world rests between sleeping and waking, there exists a moment of perfect possibility. It is in this liminal space that the heart remembers its true nature, not as a fortress protecting against pain, but as a garden welcoming all seasons. The word awakening in Sanskrit is bodhi, not a dramatic lightning bolt of realization, but a gentle flowering, like a lotus bud opening to receive the first rays of morning sun. It suggests that enlightenment is not something we achieve through effort, but something we allow through opening. Picture a seed buried in dark earth that doesn't strain to become a flower. It doesn't struggle against the darkness that surrounds. It simply opens to what is present, the moisture, the minerals, the weight of soil that will become the very foundation of its reaching toward light. The seed trusts a process it cannot understand, guided by wisdom older than thought. This is how the heart awakens, not through understanding, but through trusting. In the meditation halls of ancient monasteries, there's a practice called metta, loving kindness meditation. It begins with offering love to yourself, then extends to loved ones, then to neutral people, then to difficult people, and finally to all beings everywhere. But here's the secret the masters knew. We're not generating love or manufacturing compassion. We're simply removing the barriers that prevent love from flowing naturally. Love is not something we create. It's something we are. Like a wellspring that bubbles up from deep underground. Compassion is the natural expression of a heart that has stopped defending itself against life. When we no longer need to protect our small sense of self, we discover that we are not separate from the suffering we see around us, or from the joy, or from the simple miracle of existence itself. Consider how you feel when you watch a sunset. There's no effort involved appreciating its beauty. You don't have to talk yourself into feeling moved by the colors painting the sky. The appreciation arises naturally, spontaneously, as if the sunset is not something you're looking at, but something you're participating in. This is how compassion works when the heart is awake. not as a moral obligation, but as a natural response to recognizing yourself in everything you encounter. The Buddha's final teaching was not a complex philosophical discourse, but a simple statement: work out your salvation with diligence. Not work out your salvation through struggle, but through diligence, the patient, gentle attention we might give to tending a garden. We water the seeds of wisdom. We pull the weeds of harmful habits. We create conditions for growth, but we cannot force the flowering. We can only show up day after day with the same loving presence we would offer a child learning to walk. There's a story of a student who asked his master, "What did you do before you were enlightened?" The master replied, "I chopped wood and carried water." "And what do you do now that you're enlightened?" the student pressed. "I chop wood and carry water," came the reply. "But what's the difference?" the student asked. "Now when I chop wood, I chop wood. When I carry water, I carry water." Awakening is not about transcending ordinary life, but about meeting it with such complete presence that the ordinary reveals its extraordinary nature. The cup of tea becomes a communion with the earth and rain. The conversation with a friend becomes a meeting of souls. The simple act of breathing becomes a prayer of gratitude for the gift of existence. Feel this now, the miracle of your breath flowing in and out without your effort. Notice how you don't have to remember to beat your heart or circulate your blood or digest your food. There's an intelligence moving through you that is wiser than your thinking mind, more compassionate than your personal will, more creative than your individual imagination. This intelligence is not separate from you. It is you at the deepest level. The awakening heart recognizes that it has never been separate from this intelligence. You are not a drop trying to return to the ocean. You are the ocean expressing itself as this particular drop. You are not a wave trying to become water. You are water dancing as this wave. You are not a person trying to find God. You are the divine consciousness exploring itself through the experience of being human. This recognition doesn't come as a thought, but as a feeling, a coming home to what you have always been. Like a river that has been flowing toward the sea its entire existence, you discover that you were never actually separate from your destination. Every twist and turn, every obstacle and detour, every moment of doubt and confusion has been part of the perfect path that brought you to this moment of recognition. Asterisk, asterisk, in the deep silence of mountain caves where ancient hermits once sat in meditation, there echoes a question that has haunted and liberated seekers for millennia. What does it mean to be truly free? Freedom, we discover, is not the ability to do whatever we want, but the liberation from the tyranny of wanting itself. It's not the absence of limitations, but the recognition that our true nature is vast enough to embrace all limitations without being confined by them. Imagine a bird that has spent its entire life in a cage, believing that the bars define the boundaries of existence. One day, the door swings open. At first, the bird might be terrified. The familiar bars provided security, predictability, a sense of identity. I am the bird in the cage, it might think. But slowly, tentatively, it ventures beyond the threshold and discovers the infinite. Sky that was always there, waiting. This is what happens when we begin to question the invisible cages we've built around our hearts. The cage of I am not good enough. The cage of I must achieve something significant to be worthy of love. The cage of I am separate from others, from nature, from the divine. The cage of I must figure everything out with my mind. These beliefs feel so solid, so real, but they are made of the same substance as dreams, convincing while we're in them, but transparent when we wake up. True freedom begins with the recognition that most of our prisons are made of thoughts. Buddha spoke of the Four Noble Truths, but there's a fifth truth that underlies them all, the truth of your original nature, which is already free, already perfect, already complete. This freedom doesn't need to be earned or achieved. It needs to be remembered, uncovered, allowed to shine through the clouds of conditioning. Consider how you felt as a young child. Before you learned to doubt your natural joy, there was a time when you didn't question your right to exist, your worthiness to be loved, your place in the cosmic dance. You laughed because laughter bubbled up naturally. You cried because tears were the honest expression of feeling. You played because play was the natural state of being alive. You were free because you hadn't yet learned to imprison yourself. That freedom is not lost. It's simply buried under layers of learned limitation. In the Zen tradition, there's a practice called just sitting, shikantaza. No goal, no technique. No trying to achieve any particular state. Just sitting with whatever arises, allowing experience to be exactly as it is, without the need to fix, improve, or transform it. In this radical acceptance, something extraordinary happens. The effort to be someone else relaxes, and who you actually are begins to shine through. Try this now. Stop trying to be peaceful, and simply be. Stop trying to be wise, and simply be. Stop trying to be spiritual, and simply be. Stop trying to be anything other than exactly what you are in this moment. Perhaps tired, perhaps restless, perhaps curious, perhaps doubtful. Let it all be here without resistance, without the need to change anything about your experience. In this stopping, in this complete allowing, you might catch a glimpse of your natural state. It's not traumatic or mystical. It's as ordinary as breathing, as simple as the feeling of your body resting, as immediate as the awareness that knows you're reading these words. Yet in its simplicity lies the most profound freedom, the freedom to be yourself without apology, without improvement, without the exhausting effort of trying to be someone else. This is what the masters mean when they speak of liberation. Not escape from the human experience, but the freedom to be fully human without resistance. The saint doesn't transcend anger. They feel anger without being enslaved by it. The wise person doesn't eliminate sadness. They experience sadness without being crushed by it. The awakened heart doesn't avoid difficulty. It meets difficulty with the same open presence it offers to joy. Freedom is not the absence of waves, but the capacity to remain as the ocean regardless of what waves arise. You are not free from your humanity. You are free as your humanity. Free to feel without drowning. Free to think without being imprisoned by thoughts. Free to love without possessing. Free to grieve without being destroyed by loss. Free to hope without being crushed by disappointment. This freedom is available. Now, in this breath, in this moment of reading, in this simple recognition that you are already the awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. You don't need to travel to distant mountains or study ancient texts or perfect your meditation. Practice. You don't need to become someone else or achieve some elevated state. You need only to stop running from yourself and discover that what you've been seeking has been here all along, wearing your face, breathing your breath, beating your heart. In the deepest chambers of the heart, where words have never traveled and thoughts cannot reach, there exists a silence so profound that it contains all sound, so complete that it gives birth to all meaning, so full that it appears empty to the mind that seeks to grasp it. This is not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence, the pregnant pause before the universe spoke itself into existence, the quiet space between heartbeats, where infinity rests, the still point around which all of creation dances. Listen now. Can you hear it? Beneath the hum of electricity, beneath the whisper of wind, beneath the distant sound of traffic or the rustle of leaves, there is a silence that has been with you since your first breath. It was there in your mother's womb, in the darkness before you learned to distinguish between self and world. It will be there in your last exhale, in the moment when all doing ceases and only being remains. This silence is not empty. It is the fullness from which all experience emerges. In the meditation halls of ancient monasteries, monks would sit for hours in this silence, not trying to achieve anything, not waiting for enlightenment to strike like lightning, but simply resting in the space that exists before the mind creates its stories about what this moment should be or mean. They discovered something that sounds like a paradox. The more deeply we sink into silence, the more eloquently it speaks. It speaks without words about the nature of peace. It teaches without concepts about the art of letting go. It reveals without explanation the truth that has always been present, but rarely noticed, that you are not separate from the silence, but are the silence itself, temporarily dreaming that it is a person seeking peace. There's a story of a student who asked his master, "What is the Buddha?" The master replied, 3 pounds of flax. The student was confused. He had expected a profound philosophical answer, a description of enlightened consciousness, perhaps a reference to the historical Buddha. But the master's response pointed to something even more radical: the Buddha nature. The awakened awareness is not separate from the most ordinary things. It's as present in 3 pounds of flax as in the most sacred temple, as available in this moment as in the deepest meditation. This is what silence teaches us, that the sacred is not hidden in some distant realm, but woven into the fabric of the everyday. The breath you're breathing right now is the same breath that flows through all living things. The awareness that knows you're reading these words is the same awareness that looks out through every pair of eyes, that dreams every dream, that experiences every moment of joy and sorrow across all of existence. Feel this now, the silence that exists in the space between thoughts, not the effort to stop thinking, but the recognition of the aware space in which thoughts appear and disappear. This space is not disturbed by the thoughts that pass through it, any more than the sky is disturbed by the clouds that cross it. It simply witnesses, holds, allows, remains. In this silence, the seeker and the sought dissolve into a single reality. Are not a person looking for peace. You are peace itself, temporarily forgetting its nature and seeking to remember. You are not a wave trying to find the ocean. You are the ocean, playing at being a wave. You are not consciousness trapped in a body. You are consciousness exploring itself through the beautiful limitation of form. This recognition doesn't come as a thought, but as a feeling, a coming home to what you have always been. Like a river that has been flowing toward the sea its entire existence, you discover that you were never actually separate from your destination. Every spiritual book you've read, every teacher you've studied with, every moment of seeking and doubt and longing has been the universe's way of leading you back to this simple recognition. You are already what you seek. The silence speaks this. Truth without words. There is nothing to achieve, nowhere to go, no one to become. There is only this moment, this breath, this gentle awareness that has been with you through every experience of your life, through childhood wonder and adolescent confusion, through the victories and defeats of adulthood, through every moment of joy and sorrow, fear and love. It has never left you, never judged you, never demanded that you be different than you are. Rest in this silence now, like a tired traveler finally arriving home. Let the day's efforts dissolve into this vast stillness. Let the questions and seeking and spiritual striving melt into the peace that doesn't need to be earned or understood. Let yourself be held by the same presence that holds the stars in their courses, that guides the seasons in their eternal dance, that knows without doubt that you are exactly where you need to be. Asterisk, asterisk, in the heart of the cyclone, there exists a place of perfect calm. While winds rage at hundreds of miles per hour, destroying and creating, lifting and laying low, the center remains utterly still, not as an absence of power, but as the source of it. This is the deepest truth that mystics across all traditions have discovered. Stillness is not the opposite of movement, but the space in which all movement occurs. It's not the absence of life, but the very ground of being from which life springs forth in all its wild creativity. Picture the hub of a wheel, motionless yet enabling all rotation. Without the still center, the wheel cannot turn. Without the silent space between notes, music cannot exist. Without the pause between heartbeats, life cannot flow. Without the stillness that you are at your core, experience cannot unfold, thoughts cannot arise, love cannot be felt. You are. Not a person who occasionally experiences stillness. You are stillness itself, temporarily identifying with the movement dot in the temples of ancient Japan. There's a practice called forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku. Practitioners don't hike vigorously through the woods or study the flora and fauna. They simply sit among the trees, allowing themselves to be saturated by the forest's presence. The trees teach them something profound. True power comes not from doing, but from being so deeply rooted in stillness that action, when it comes, flows from peace rather than anxiety. The ancient pine doesn't struggle to be magnificent. It simply is. The mountain doesn't strain to be solid and immovable. It rests in its own nature. The deep lake doesn't work to be reflective. It naturally mirrors the sky because stillness is its essence. And you, beneath all the activity of your days, beneath all the thoughts and feelings and experiences, you are this same stillness, this same natural peace dot. But how do we access this stillness in our modern world of constant motion and noise? The secret is not to eliminate movement, but to recognize the stillness that underlies all movement. Right now, as you read these words, your eyes are moving across the page, your heart is beating, your breath is flowing, thoughts are arising and passing away. Yet the awareness that knows all of this activity remains perfectly still, like the movie screen that remains unchanged, no matter what film is playing upon it. This awareness is not something you possess. It is what you are. You are not aware of your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. You are not conscious of your feelings. You are the consciousness that experiences feeling. You are not observing your breath. You are the observing itself, the pure witnessing that requires no effort, no technique, no spiritual practice to exist. Try this gentle experiment. Stop trying to be still, and simply notice the stillness that is already here. Don't try to quiet your mind. Instead, recognize the quiet space in which mental activity occurs. Don't try to calm your emotions. Instead, feel the calm presence that holds all emotions without being disturbed by them. Don't try to stop your thoughts. Instead, rest as the stillness that remains unchanged, whether thoughts are present or absent. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of the unconditioned, that which is not dependent on circumstances, not affected by change, not threatened by the coming and going of experiences. Your job is not to create this stillness. It's already here, has always been here, will always be here. Your job is not to maintain it. It maintains itself. Your job is not to protect it. It's invulnerable. Your job is simply to recognize it, to remember it, to rest in it as naturally as you rest in sleep. In this recognition, something profound happens. The seeker dissolves into the sought. You stop being someone who is trying to find peace and realize you are peace itself, temporarily forgetting its nature. You stop being someone who is searching for truth and recognize you are truth, playing at being confused. You stop being someone who is seeking God and understand you are the divine, consciousness exploring itself through the experience of seeking. This is the ultimate stillness, not the absence of movement, but the recognition that you are the aware space in which all movement occurs. The storms of life may rage around you. The winds of change may blow through your experience. The cycles of joy and sorrow may continue their eternal dance. But you, at your deepest level, remain as still as the eye of the hurricane, as unmoved as the depths of the ocean, as constant as the space that holds all stars. Rest in this stillness now, like an exhausted traveler finally laying down their burden. Let the effort to become someone else dissolve into the peace of being who you already are. Let the struggle to find meaning dissolve into the recognition that you are meaning itself, expressing as this moment of existence. Let the search for home dissolve into the understanding that you have never left home. You are home. You are the peace you seek. You are the stillness that has been quietly waiting for you to remember. As our journey through these ancient teachings draws to a close, like the last notes of a lullaby fading into the gentle embrace of night, we find ourselves not at an ending, but at a beginning, the beginning of remembering what we have always known. The 10 stories we've shared tonight, the timeless wisdom that has flowed through these words, like water through cupped hands, point to a single luminous truth. You are not separate from the peace you seek, the love you long for, the home you've been trying to find. You are these things, expressing themselves as this moment of seeking, this breath of wonder, this gentle recognition that awakening is not a destination, but a way of being present to what is already here. Like the moon that has been quietly illuminating our path throughout this entire journey, your true nature has been shining steadily behind the clouds of confusion and doubt. The teachings of the Buddha, the wisdom of Zen masters, the insights of countless seekers throughout history, they are not giving you something new, but helping you remember something ancient. Like archaeologists carefully brushing away the dust of centuries to reveal a beautiful statue that was always there, these teachings clear away the accumulated layers of conditioning to reveal the luminous being you have always been. Take a moment now to feel the gift of this recognition settling into your bones, your breath, your heart. The young monk who learned about tea and rain from Master Joshu, the student who discovered the teaching of the empty cup, the seeker who found peace not through achievement, but through surrender. These are not just stories about other people. They are mirrors reflecting your own journey, your own moments of confusion transformed into clarity, your own heart learning to trust the wisdom that flows through all things. As you prepare to enter the realm of dreams, know that you carry this understanding with you. The stillness we've explored together is not something that exists only during meditation or quiet contemplation. It's the very foundation of your being, as present during your morning coffee as during your evening prayers, as available in the midst of a busy day as in the depths of peaceful sleep. The compassion we've touched upon tonight is not a feeling you must generate, but your natural response to recognizing yourself in all beings. When you see suffering, you see your own capacity for pain. When you witness joy, you see your own capacity for celebration. When you encounter another person struggling to find their way, you see your own journey reflected back to you. This recognition dissolves the illusion of separation and reveals the interconnected web of existence in which we all participate. The letting go we've practiced together is not a one-time event, but a moment-by-moment choice. Each time you release your grip on how things should be, each time you trust the flow of life to carry you where you need to go, each time you choose presence over resistance, you participate in the same awakening that has been available to humans for millennia. You join the great Sangha of all beings who have discovered that peace is not a reward for perfect behavior, but the natural state of an open heart. Thank you for sharing this quiet path with me tonight.